Hello and welcome back to Uncultured Twenties. My name is Leanne.
And my name is Julia.
And this podcast is a very fun journey of us culturally educating ourselves in what is considered classic in pop culture.
Media that people would say, you've never seen that, or you have to listen to that.
Films, music videos, albums, consumable content. We review it and why we think it's made its way into the canon.
Past, present, or future.
This season, we have been focusing on sort of the present and the future. We attended the Toronto International Film Festival in September, and we have been reviewing all the up-and-coming films.
We spoke to some talented filmmakers, released an episode from the vault, and even covered our first book.
Join us today as we wrap up our second season.
Uncultured Twenties.
You were not kidding when you said this season was accelerated.
I know, I feel like we've been running a marathon, but we had to get it out while it was all still happening. Like, I can't even believe we made it to the end, but also it feels like it's been forever since TIFF started.
Yeah, and we still have a decent amount of films to talk about as well, so why don't you start talking me through it?
So I'm gonna take all of y'all through some of the films that we haven't covered yet, and then we'll maybe talk about some of the best rated films of the festival, and then go through our personal favorites.
Let's start with Quiz Lady. This actually just came out on Disney Plus a few days ago. It's a comedy directed by Jessica Yu and stars Sandra Oh and Awkwafina as sisters. They're complete opposites, but bond over their absent gambler mother.
Awkwafina plays this type A homebody who is obsessed with this quiz show. She and her pug, who is named Mr. Linguini, snuggle up every single night and watch it. Like, she has an alarm where she's like, okay, it's time to watch the quiz show. She knows all the answers, but she's too nervous to apply, so she just sits there and pretends to hit the buzzer every single night on the couch. Meanwhile, her sister is Sandra Oh, and she's like this irresponsible party girl. And she's basically a walking chaotic mess. And she's supposed to be the older sister as well, so Awkwafina definitely, her character had to sort of raise herself and become the responsible one, even though she's younger. And it was really interesting to see these two play these roles because it feels very like opposite. It feels very unlike them. So you could tell that the actors had a lot of fun with it. Like, Awkwafina's known for being like really outspoken. She's had controversial opinions about her acting because she does put on a black accent when she's speaking, and she's like, oh, I'm raised from Queens. But then when you watched other stuff, she's fully just speaking like not in AAVE.
Yeah.
Yeah. But her characters are all really sassy, really outspoken, funny, like in Ocean's 8 or in Crazy Rich Asians. Meanwhile, Sandra Oh is like most famously known as the hard-ass Christina Yang in Grey's Anatomy, which is like one of my favorite characters. So seeing them switch it up was really fun. I think that's honestly what probably drew a lot of people into the film, is seeing them play each other's characters.
Their mother has gotten herself into quite a debt and skipped town, and Mr. Linguini is kidnapped and held ransom until the debt is paid. The sisters figure that the only way they can make that money is by getting Awkwafina to win the game show.
As they make their journey, there's, classic misadventures, mishaps. They stay at this Benjamin Franklin themed hotel, which was so random. And there's also this drug infused quiz sequence when she's trying to qualify for the show. She takes like this host of drugs, and at first she's like completely incapable, but then I don't know, I think she takes some Adderall or something, and then she just nails all the answers. There's also a lot of really random cameos and celebrities in this. There's the lesbian icon Holland Taylor, who plays her neighbor. And she plays like an elderly neighbor, and I don't even see Holland Taylor as like super old, so I was like, it's weird seeing her play this like grumpy old lady. Tony Hale from Arrested Development. Personally, like, I wouldn't have known the name, but when you look up the picture, you know who he is. And he plays the Benjamin Franklin hotelier. It's so random. That's really funny. Jason Schwartzman, who is Gideon from Scott Pilgrim, like the guy with the mole.
Mm-hmm.
He plays the reigning quiz champ, so he plays kind of like an asshole, and I think that's what he's best at playing. Like, I hate him in every single movie that he's in.
Oh, man.
And then Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, is in this, and it's actually his last film role before he passed away on my birthday this year.
Oh.
Yep. And then finally, we have Will Ferrell as the quiz show host, kind of like an Alex Trebek character.
Can we mention that Will Ferrell is just always popping up in such random places and films like Barbie, the Lego movie, and now Quiz Lady. I feel like he's just always in everything.
Every time I'm sitting there in the theater, you know, I don't know if I knew he was in Barbie, but like I'm sitting in the theater, I'm like, what is Will Ferrell doing here? Like, why? You know, I mean, he was huge back in the day. I feel like he was such a meme.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's having a resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
I hated his role in Barbie. Did you see Barbie
I
yet?
did see Barbie.
Okay.
Yeah. I watched it.
I did not like that storyline. I thought it was very unnecessary. But in Quiz Lady, he was actually really like touching and genuine. And I kind of, when I saw him, I was like, oh no, like I know where this is going. But he was actually a really good character and really felt he's kind of like deity-like, godlike in a sense, you know, because she like revered him, and he had this whole storyline where he wore a different bow tie every single night, and then he has this hallway of like all the bow ties he's ever worn on the show.
Nice.
And he remembers every contestant who was on the show with the bow tie. It was a really, really good scene. Like, I think that was my favorite part of the film.
So how did you feel about the movie as a whole? Like, was it more of like a heartwarming story or like just like comedy?
It was really goofy.
Okay.
It was fun. Not the funniest movie I've ever seen, not the goofiest movie I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, you know, with all the actors, you do feel a sense of, you know, familiarness, and like it's kind of like I could see it being a comfort movie. As a Jeopardy junkie, quiz show junkie, I loved that aspect. I wish it had more, honestly, but it's not a film that you would really take seriously. Like, I don't really think there's anything super memorable. They tried to get a bit deeper with the sister and the family trauma aspect. Like the parents divorce, I think, and then the mom basically ditches them and goes to Macau and leaves them with like a ton of debt. There's like this whole storyline about pooping in a hole in the backyard. Like I won't get into it, but that's basically what the reconciliation is surrounded upon. So I think it had all the right notes, and it definitely it was a movie.
Mm-hmm. Would you recommend that people watch it now that it's out on Disney Plus?
I feel like if you're like, oh, I really want to, you know, I want the feeling of those old comedy movies like You Again or Identity Thief or Always Be My Maybe, something like that. Mm-hmm. Put it on, you know, instead of like rewatching the same funny film that you've seen 1,000 times, like put this on instead, definitely. But I'm not going to stake my life out on it and be like, this was an amazing movie.
Right. Okay. Not necessarily joining the cult.
No, I don't even know if I would say adding it to the list, to be honest, but no complaints, just no accolades for me here either. It was unmemorable, to be honest, but I liked seeing Sandra Oh in like a fun character. I thought that was definitely a highlight for me because I don't know if you watch Grey's at all, but very different from Christina Yang, very different from her Killing Eve character as well.
You're very beautiful.
Oh, screw beautiful. I'm brilliant. If you want to appease me, compliment my brain.
Okay.
Next up is the Lil Nas X Long Live Montero documentary, directed by Carlos Lopez Estrada. It follows the titular pop star on his first headlining concert tour of his debut studio album. He toured North America and Europe with a special stop in Sydney, Australia.
Lil Nas X is a very modern, very contemporary star. He started as like an internet personality with a Nicki Minaj stan account. Like that was his first time going viral.
Oh my gosh.
And his breakout hit was Old Town Road, which Julie and I actually saw live together.
Yes, in 2019 we went to Boston Calling. And during Anderson .Paak's set, he was brought out to sing Old Town Road. At the time, I think I'd heard the song like once. I knew he was a big deal, but I didn't really know the song. But thinking back to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we actually saw him live.
At the time, it was like a meme. It was like the Walmart yodeling boy.
Yeah, oh my god,
coming to the festival. Like, I feel like that's the level he was at, where it's like, oh, just the Old Town Road guy. Just like one hit wonder, sort of like
TikTok, Instagram kind of star solely. Like his sound will just be a TikTok sound kind of thing. But the track actually does sample Nine Inch Nails' track 34, Ghosts 4. And then, of course, we all have the remix forever in our hearts with Billy Ray Cyrus.
Hat down, cross town, living like a rock star. Spend a lot of money on my brand new guitar.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised, like, thinking back to how it started. I remember the clear, like, mindset we were in, being like, oh, okay, just this guy. But I remember on Twitter, I think I followed him, honestly. He was, like, pushing his own, he made, like, memes of himself. He was pushing his song as a meme, just constantly making himself go viral, really, like, sassy comebacks at all the Twitter trolls. I even remember, like, I was working at Menchie's, and this is when we had karaoke night, and all the kids loved Old Town Road for some reason.
Yep.
The Stuff of Nightmares. So at that point, I did hate Lil Nas X, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And I also feel like this 2019 time was at the same time as, like, Casey Musgraves, if y'all know of her. She was kind of, it was when everybody was wearing their cowboy boots, their cowboy hats. Everybody was in their cowboy era.
But not everybody agreed that this song was country, in quotes. Even though it debuted at number 19 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs chart, it was controversially removed because it didn't embrace enough elements of today's country music. Many people called this decision racist because of the historic cultural erasure of Black Americans from country music and the cowboy movement. And, like, also, that's such a, like, it seems like such a snobby old white country man thing to do, to be like, this song's not country enough. Get it off my chart.
It's for the youth. It's not about being in my truck, but it is. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town.
I think that
this is a country song.
Country.
If Billy Ray Cyrus is in it, it's automatically country.
For real.
And this erasure was proven again when Wrangler consumers threatened a boycott because of their collaboration with Lil Nas X.
That is so crazy. That's, oh my god.
They were so upset. For what reason? For why?
Oh, yeah. Like, they're going to boycott Wrangler jeans?
They're going to boycott anything. They're going to boycott Bud Light. They're going to boycott this. They're going to boycott that. Like, okay.
Like, all right, everybody, let's calm down. And that was not the only controversy that we have seen from Lil Nas. He launched a pair of Satan shoes with a pentagram, inverted cross, and a drop of human blood in them. And despite the backlash from Nike and religious figures, they sold out immediately. In response, he said, I spent my entire teenage years hating myself because of the shit y'all preached would happen to me because I was gay. So I hope you're mad, stay mad, feel the same anger you teach us to have towards ourselves.
And that's definitely a topic that they covered in the documentary. It sort of went back and forth between the songs he performed and sort of what he was about, the struggles he had growing up, and how quickly his career came up and how quickly he became super famous, him becoming comfortable on stage, his relationship with his family and religion and with coming out. He was really unsure of how his fans would feel about him being gay because he's already faced so much discrimination from the country community. But when he came out on Twitter, there was definitely a mixed reaction.
Yeah, his fans mostly stuck by him, but he did receive lots of homophobic remarks from the hip-hop community. But he did take most of it in stride, using Twitter to combat the haters. And I always thought his tweets were
they're
funny. Going back at people, yeah.
Yeah, they're not serious. Like, I think that's something that keeps him connected to his fans, and that's something that people like about him, myself included, is that he keeps it real. Like, he doesn't take it that seriously. And I also like that he knows what the culture is, and he knows, like, how the internet is. There's a lot of celebrities who are so, like, divided. Yeah, so out of it. Like, it's not them running their PR.
Yeah.
Like, this is just, like, literally just who he is. Like, I feel like, you know, he's a barb. Just a famous barb. Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fan inclusion actually in the documentary. They go out into the lines and talk to the people waiting for the show. They talk about what he means to them and how relatable he is, because they don't really see a lot of gay Black representation in hip hop or in country or really just music in general. So I really loved seeing how much of an event his tour was. Like, everybody was dressed to the nines. They were sparkly. It was like Eras Tour before Eras Tour was a thing.
Yeah. I love when concerts, like, when artists have that sort of culture at their concerts and stuff too. I think it's so fun. Like, I love to just, like, dress up and go.
Yeah, it's like, what is the chance you're going to be around all the same people who like all the same music as you, and you're all going to know the words? Like, it's a very bonding, unified moment. And I mean, I wish it was like easier to like hang out and talk to people at shows. I feel like maybe I met a few friends at concerts, so I think it's nice. And I feel like every time I go to a show, like when I went to see Charlie XCX, something like, it's a fashion show. Like whenever I go to a show now, I'm like, I have to dress up.
I know, yeah. You're like, going to concerts has become a whole new level of like being stressed because you have to look nice.
You're like, am I gonna be like one of the fans who's like this vibe or like that vibe and like blah blah blah?
Yeah, for sure.
This isn't the only concert film that we saw this year. We also saw the Talking Heads concert film, and it was very different vibe. Yeah. The Talking Heads concert film, you know, there was no acknowledgement of the camera, I don't think. I mean, they sung to the camera, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't like, it was less documentary style, more concert film style. So like, yeah, it's not like they were talking at any point to the camera or to people. Yeah. So we didn't really get any background. We didn't get any personal information, and I would have loved some from the Talking Heads. Yeah.
But it was really great to, you know, see him like get right off the stage and just start talking to the camera. And the director also has directed a bunch of music videos, so there's a very artistic action vibe to it. So I thought it was really interesting. You know, it was a little long for my taste, the film, but it was like nice to get an insight into his family, and you can see he's really like a genuine person. And it's, you know, it's good for posterity too, because like we said, in country music and a lot of music, we don't get that representation, and they've also been historically erased, so to have that documentation and creation is really important.
I love all documentary films about artists. I think they're always so interesting, and like it's so cool to getting to see their life and like what they're actually sort of going through and living through, because obviously we just see the like shiny product at the end with like the cowboy hat and the rhinestones, but it's cool getting to see their lives for real.
So next up, we have Backspot by D.W. Watterson.
When you think cheerleading, you think Bring It On, But I'm a Cheerleader, or Hellcats. All iconic with queer undertones.
Bring It On series raised me. Okay, I would memorize all the cheers. Like the Shibuya one with the Bring It On with Solange and Hayden Patinier.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is.
Here we go now.
The original one with Kirsten Dunst and like the Missy girl, like I can't. It's too good. They were too good. Like I wanted to be a cheerleader.
Yeah, this film had a very different tone than those movies. I would say it's more similar to Whiplash or Black Swan, thinking films where the artist or the athlete becomes so obsessed with their work that it blinds them to their life and sort of takes over every aspect of their life.
Very much like the artists.
The tortured artist.
Yes, exactly.
Vibes, yeah.
The film follows two cheerleader girlfriends named Riley and Amanda, and they are offered spots on an elite cheer squad. Even though they're both excited, the reality sets in, and the coach pushes them harder than they ever have before.
Riley gets very caught up in perfection and pushes herself and her team past their limit. It puts a strain on her relationship with Amanda and also makes her question what is most important in her life.
Something that I really liked about the movie was its representation of OCD. That's definitely what stuck out to me.
Me too.
Though it's not explicitly stated, you can see the compulsive activities that she resorts to as a form of control. There's like this really graphic nail and hair and eyebrow picking, and she really, really spirals, and that's something that I can relate to. So it was really touching to see that being depicted.
I also liked the role models that the characters had in the film, and though the coaches were sort of your typical tough coaches, they both were good queer role models, especially the assistant coach, who we find out also is a drag queen. And the film in general had good representation, which is unsurprising as it's directed by a non-binary director and produced by Elliot Page's Page Boy Productions.
Yes, so Riley is played by Reservation Dogs star Devery Jacobs, and Amanda is played by Kudakwashe Rutendo, and the coach is none other than Evan Rachel Wood. Okay. Icon. Long history in dark, female-fronted independent films like 13 or Allure, which was from TIFF 2017.
The director is a DJ, which definitely was also reflected in the film.
It was, you're thinking cheerleading, like DJ, hyped up, it could work. And it definitely at some points does, when they're doing the routines and stuff, the high energy things work out. But it was too DJ vibes for me. It was too club.
When there's the scene too where they were having like their little party with the glow sticks and it was all just like, like it was just like DJ party. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, definitely. The director's definitely a DJ. I think they had too heavy of a hand, honestly, in the sound department. I really would have loved a bit more like emotional or touching tracks in the film. Mm-hmm. I also, and same with that scene that you're mentioning, I feel like there was a lot of like Tumblr vibes.
Yeah.
And it was kind of jarring to go from that to like the really intense sports scenes. And I mean, I guess that's sometimes how life is, you go from one place to the other, but I really wasn't sure what to expect from the film. The trailers were very vague. I definitely feel like I left it a little unsatisfied, a little like didn't feel exactly like I got what I was expecting or maybe hoping for. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I feel like when it ended, I was kind of just like, oh, great. Everything worked out great. The cheer team succeeded and they got the first prize medal. Like, I was like, I was kind of hoping it would amount to something a little more like, everything kind of just worked out very smoothly. Like, she gets back with her girlfriend after their drama. And like, nothing's like revealed as like, I don't know. I was waiting for the coach to become like a psycho. Like, I was just waiting for something crazy to happen. And instead it was just like, oh, actually everything's fine. And the OCD sort of eyebrow picking storyline also was just like, it's over. Like, we're done with that.
Man, I wish it was over that quickly.
I know. I'm like, dang, if only it was that easy. I just win my first prize medal and everything's good. So yeah, it was like a little bit, I don't know. It felt like there was more potential there to do something a little bit more.
Definitely.
Like to get in a little deeper, I feel like. And I think that it was kind of just like, oh, we got to wrap it up. So let's do it all nicely.
I agree. I feel the same way. I think they had some really good points and some really interesting themes. And I think a really good scene was when they both sort of discover that the coach is gay and they sort of see her holding hands with her girlfriend or whatever, and they're like, oh my god, like she's gay. And it's like, I definitely relate to that feeling where everybody's like, oh my god, it's like, oh. And I like that, the assistant coach kind of came at the moment of need and helped out, but I really think they could have dug into that more. I agree, there's a lot of potential there, but and I mean, good performances all around. It just felt a little loose-endy.
I transferred from Los Angeles. Your school has no gymnastics team. This is a last resort.
Lastly, we have Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person by Quebec filmmaker Ariane Louis says.
This film was in French, which I just think added to the humor of it. We've mentioned before, we do like French films. It was very dry, very sarcastic. It's about this quote-unquote teenage vampire. I say teenage relative to vampire years. I think they say she's like 64 or something in it. But the other vampires are like 300 or something. So she's a teenager to them. And her name is Sasha. And she just refuses to kill a human or drink their blood because of this like childhood trauma she has. And instead she relies on these blood juice packs that her family supplies for her. So they're literally like squeezy, like Kool-Aid jammers that she just sucks blood from.
Her mother becomes fed up with babying Sasha and sends her away to her cousins to learn how to hunt. Her cousin is very similar to Victoria from Twilight.
Yeah, the film was definitely a satirical Twilight, Dark Shadows, Addams Family, Shaun of the Dead kind of vibe.
How old are you?
17.
How long have you been 17?
A while.
Sasha encounters a depressed Paul who's being bullied and wants to end his life. They enter a pact. Sasha will help him complete his bucket list, and then she will kill him by drinking his blood. The film primarily takes place over the course of the evening, where they flip off his teachers and punch his bullies and say goodbye to his mom.
The real standout is Sasha's actress, Sarah Montpetit. She says so much without hardly speaking. She is like artistic. She's dry. She's very much like Aubrey Plaza in a Wes Anderson film.
Mm-hmm.
There's such an indie charm to the film, and it's just so pleasant to watch.
We have just passed Halloween, but that is definitely the season to watch it.
I loved this movie. It was, I think, Julia, if you went to go see it, you would like it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was just everything. It was charming. It was funny. It was well paced. There's some good little like gags, stuff for you to notice. Like, I feel like if you watched it a second time, you would notice little things here and there. It really just has that humor that at least strikes my fancy. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I really liked it.
Yeah, when I was reading about this one, trying to see some of the films, I thought this one would be a cool one to see, but unfortunately I was not able to. But I am hoping that I'll be able to get it somewhere soon so I can watch it.
I'm sure it will be somewhere soon. And I was like running late to the screening, and I had to sit like literally in the very front, like so close to the screen. I was craning my neck up, but I got so lost in the movie I didn't even care.
Nice.
It was that good.
Very
and it was
good.
packed. Like so many people wanted to go see this movie, and rightfully so. And not at TIFF, but at other film festivals, it's won many a prize.
Nice.
Vampires don't do dishes.
So before we talk about our favorites, I do want to mention some films that we didn't get the chance to see.
Of course, the biggest one is The Boy and the Heron by Miyazaki. This was impossible to get access to, but if you've listened to our first episode, then you know that we are very big Miyazaki fans. So I hope that we can see it soon. It is coming somewhere soon, I read, but I can't remember where.
I don't know where either, but I really want to see it
I'm pretty
as well.
sure. I also saw that Robert Pattinson does the voice, one of the English voices. The like English voice cast for this was like so star-studded. Like it was like Robert Pattinson, Florence Pugh, I think Willem Dafoe. Like it was just like all these names that I know.
I don't like listening to the dub, but like maybe I will.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I prefer not to watch the English dub, but I'm like, maybe I gotta I'll go once through in Japanese and then once through.
That's what I'm like with
dub.
Ponyo when I know it's like Noah Cyrus and Frankie Jonas. I'm like, that's all I can think of in my head.
Yeah.
I also really wanted to catch Tau Tuk Tavuk, or What We See. It's this film about two Inuit sisters during COVID and sort of their reconnection with each other. It won the Amplify Voices Award this year for Best First Film. It looked incredible. I heard some really great things. I just didn't get the chance to see it.
American Fiction was the People's Choice Award, and it's a satirical comedy about artistic integrity that seems similar to Bamboozled by Spike Lee.
Bamboozled, I watched in the English class. It's a wild film. Absolutely wild. The next one is Dix, the musical. It seems just like a celebrity-filled fever dream. Like so many people, it's supposed to be this take on The Parent Trap. Honestly, I talked to some other people at TIFF who saw it, and they said it was not good.
Okay.
They were like, it was interesting.
Right.
But there's a lot of cultural references there, a lot of celebrities in there. So I feel like it's just one that I might just have a gummy and watch.
And would we be Canadians if we didn't mention the Nickelback documentary? I'm like, I guess I gotta see it.
I know. I mean, I didn't even get to see Nickelback on that day. I had plans, whatever the plans were.
Yeah.
I did hear that people had fun at the show, the free Nickelback show.
Mm-hmm.
I've honestly been listening to them a little bit. I've been listening to this playlist called Canadian Road Trip Classics or something like that. Canadian Road Trip Classics. So of course Nickelback's on there.
Yeah.
Do we need to hate them as much as we do? Are we all just hating them because it's a thing to hate them?
Yeah, I mean, like, I never hated Nickelback. They were fine. Like, I don't know. They were just
They're
like,
kind of just a cultural punching bag.
yeah, like they're just like dad rock, whatever bands. Like, there's a million of them. At least they were successful to some degree.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I used to play, when I used to warm up for drumming, one of their songs was like the correct speed for my warm up. So I used to listen to it very often, actually.
Very nice. Very
So,
nice.
yeah.
So in the podcast, we have covered about 10 different TIFF films, give or take. I know you didn't get to see them all, but I would love to hear your thoughts about this year's selection, what your favorites were, how the festival was in general.
I thought it was so fun to do a TIFF season because I feel like it's so exciting to get to start to discover things that could become cultural classics. I mean, for me, I didn't see, obviously, as many films as you did, but highlight for me was going to see the Talking Heads film. I just that was such a cool experience. And that's not even, that already sort of was a cultural classic almost because of its original release back in 1984. But I thought that was such a good film. And I am excited to go and watch the rest of them once they come out. I also thought it was cool to do a book was being adapted into a series. The series is out now, so I guess I have to start taking a look at it.
I've watched almost all of it. I have 20 minutes left of the last episode.
Nice. Is it living up to the expectations or the book?
So right now okay, I didn't finish the book. I'm still finishing it. So I'm concurrently reading it and watching it. But I'm definitely thinking back now, I'm seeing what they've changed. For example, they made Madame Manec related to them, kind of.
Okay.
I think they made her Etienne's sister. Just little things in the book we have, is it in the book or I don't know. No, it's in the, now I can't remember which one was which.
Uh-oh.
I just watched the part where Etienne, I think, dies in the rubble. I don't know in the book if he dies in the rubble.
In the book, he does not die.
I haven't finished the whole thing, so I can't say anything on either part. But at least that's the impression that I got. But yeah, so I'm definitely noticing some little differences here or there. I think actually, before I was I like that it's only 4 episodes. I think that's a good short series length. But now watching it, I kind of wish they made it longer because there are a lot of parts that we just didn't get to see. The little details, things like her drinking out of the bathtub. I think they okay, my memory is awful and I will never be because I'm watching them at the same time. I will never be able to tell the difference between the two. But I think they cut out her sort of hiding behind the wardrobe thing, which I thought was a really vivid description to me. So things like that. I mean, of course, nothing is ever going to live up to the book.
Just to cap off my picks, I also think that Fry Bread Face in Me I really liked. I think, yeah, that one just really I thought was so heartwarming and so touching. And then listening also to the interview with Billy, I thought was so sweet. So I thought that was such a cool film, and it's so cool that there is something like TIFF that is so close to home where you can, see all of these up and coming filmmakers and artists and everybody. So yeah, what were your seeing all of the films that you did see? What were some of the highlights for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, TIFF as a whole was just such a highlight, being part of all the mentor sessions, just getting to be downtown and be a part of everything was so fun. Meeting people, I think that was definitely a real highlight for me. Even almost at every film I would ended up talking to the person I was sitting next to, and it was really nice to have that community there. Film picks, I think Humanist Vampire was my favorite. It was just everything I love in a movie. Vampires, French,
yep.
Comedy, good music, stylistic choices. It was really, really funny. I also liked Fry Bread Face in Me a lot. I think that's one I'll probably watch in the summers as a vibe, as a slice of life type of thing. Speaking to the filmmakers, absolute highlight. It was such a pleasure to talk to both of them and, be a part of their journey and presenting their babies to the world. Because, when we're talking to them, it was before either of them had been premiered at the festival. And I'm really grateful that they gave their time to talk to us. And I feel like being able to speak to them really gave me more attachment to the film, having all that background and doing all that research. And I think maybe with summer camp, I would have been oh yeah, it was good. But then learning about the intention behind it and speaking with Jen, I just I feel so much more fondness for the film and for the people in it. So I think those were my highlights of the festival.
Yes.
You said it was exciting talking about new films. Are you sad we're going to be going back to old films? Do you think we should once in a while cover some new ones?
I think it'd be fun to maybe do a couple new releases every once in a while, because that is what's happening and what is now. But I don't know. I also love going back to the other films that, have been around for a while and have cult followings, or, we had our Rocky Horror episode come out, and I going to see it again on Halloween or right before Halloween. I'm just like, yeah, this is so cool. Like, this film has been around for so long, and it's still like such a huge moment. And so, yeah, I think every once in a while it might be fun to have a little new and upcoming film, but I am excited to get back into some older classics as well, for sure.
I agree. I think it's interesting going into these films not having like anybody else's opinion inflicted on us. Both of us just having our own opinion and being like, this is how we feel about the film, like not being influenced by anyone else. I think that's something that's really it kind of pushes us in a way. It makes me a little scared to say stuff. It's like, oh, what if other people don't agree? But you know what? Like, this is our opinion, so we're going to stand on it.
Yeah.
But definitely, I'm excited to get back to some old stuff. I think we should do, like, something really old.
Way back. Like Roman Holiday.
Yeah, even further back.
Further back. Okay.
And if all of you listening have any recommendations, please go to our website, go to our Instagram, go to our TikTok. We have many. We're open to suggestions.
Yes. I love checking those films off my list. I love when Leanne doesn't have to ask me if I have seen it, because I have. So yes, please do let us know.
I also just want to know how important TIFF is, or how important film festivals are, and how they are in themselves a really important part of like culture, because it's like a mix of like professional critics, but then also the public.
Many large films have had their world premiere at TIFF. It's been running for 46 years and is one of the largest publicly attended film festivals in the world. It really shows how important film is to our culture. To be some of the first to see a film and to meet all the creators is such a unique experience. The People's Choice Award is an indicator of success during the Oscars, American Beauty, Slumdog Millionaire, The King's Speech, La La Land, 12 Years a Slave.
And maybe American Fiction. Like, who knows what this year's Oscar will be. So it's cool to be like, oh, it's like an indie festival, but like realistically there are like 1 million people downtown, and it's very corporately funded, which sort of ties into what I was gonna bring up, is like, you know, they do have ties to like RBC, which has a record of fossil fuel investment, and their lead sponsor Bell has pulled out following this year. I've also heard from filmmaker friends that they were planning on boycotting due to their poor experiences with TIFF. So I think the festival has sort of elevated itself beyond this like indie film festival. It's not that at all. It's a corporate giant. Yeah. If you go on Wikipedia, you see like a lot of the pictures are actually, it's like Jessica Chastain at TIFF.
Yeah.
Like, a lot, for some reason, all the photo credits are like at TIFF in 2007. So that's also something to keep in mind. I think I would love attending like a smaller film festival and to see really small, like up and coming filmmakers, like short films, things like that. I really find joy in like seeing what filmmakers who don't have the budget come up with and how they work their way around it to still get that story out there.
For sure. So thank you for following along with our TIFF coverage. We've had a blast in the future, but of course next season we are going to head back to the past, but maybe some little future things along the way. Send us suggestions, as we said, for things that we need to cover. We do movies, books, shows, albums, comics, anything. Basically any media you can consume, we'll do it. You can do that by following our Instagram and our TikTok at Uncultured Twenties. That's TWENTIES.
They also have Letterboxd, as we said, at Uncultured Twenties with a 20s to see all the films we've covered. We also have playlists, Julia's favorites, my favorites, songs we've just covered. That's spelled out, TWENTIES, on Spotify.
We're Uncultured 20s, and we'll see you next season.
Uncultured 20s.